Hey everyone, I'm John and welcome to Stories for Retired. I'm 55 years old and I've been retired for exactly 1 year. If I had to sum up this journey in one word, it'd be unexpected. When I signed my retirement papers and walked out of my finance office in Chicago, I was dreaming of lazy days by Lake Michigan, endless travel, or just waking up without an alarm clock screaming at me. I thought I had it all figured out, a rock-solid financial plan, a hefty retirement fund, and a long list of things I wanted to do. But after 12 months, I've learned that retirement isn't the rosy picture I painted. It's a roller coaster of emotions, with moments that make me smile and challenges that force me to confront my deepest fears. Today, I want to be open and honest about what I've been through, the joys that caught me off guard, but especially the problems that were bigger than I expected, from money worries to time management, health, and mental struggles. If you're thinking about early retirement, just starting your own, or curious about life after work, stick with me. At the end, I'll show you how to join Stories for Retired to hear more real stories, health tips, and a special secret I'm gearing up to share. When I stepped into retirement, I thought I had everything covered. I spent 25 years as a financial analyst, saving over 20% of my income every year, building a diversified investment portfolio, and even hiring an independent advisor to double-check my plan. I told myself, John, you've crunched the numbers. It's time to live for you. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, and retirement is no exception. One of the first things I noticed was how much my old job had taken out of me, more than I ever realized. I loved my work, the great team, the office with a view of the Chicago River, the thrill of closing a big project. But the stress? Late-night meetings, emails at midnight, quarterly targets, they weighed on me. I didn't see how tense I was until I retired. 6 months in, I went for a checkup and my doctor was floored. John, your blood pressure's gone from borderline high to normal. What did you do? I laughed. I just stopped working. Getting out from under that stress was a gift. My body felt like it could breathe again. No more nagging headaches or that heavy feeling every morning. But that relief was quickly overshadowed by bigger issues, ones that forced me to face parts of myself I hadn't expected. The biggest hurdle was financial anxiety, even with all my planning. I know it sounds crazy coming from a guy who spent his career in finance, but when that monthly paycheck stopped, I felt a void I couldn't explain. It wasn't about running out of money. My plan is solid, enough for a comfortable life, travel, and helping my kids when they need it. It was the loss of control, the loss of being the breadwinner. I used to bring in big paychecks with my expertise, respected by colleagues, trusted by clients. Suddenly, I was just John, the retired guy. Some nights, I'd wake up at 3 a.m., open my laptop and check my investment accounts, thinking, did I miscalculate? What if the market tanks? That fear wasn't just about money, it was about identity. I tied so much of who I was to my job, and letting it go felt like losing a piece of myself. I remember sitting with my wife Sarah and confessing, I don't know who I am without work. She took my hand and said, you're John, the guy who loves his family, kills every plant in the garden, and is still my hero. Her words helped, but getting past it took work. I went back to my financial plan, reviewed the numbers, and talked to my advisor. They reassured me, you're fine, John. Relax. I started journaling, writing down things I'm grateful for, like my health, my family, the freedom I have, to remind myself I don't need another paycheck to live well. But it's been a slow process, and I'm still learning to trust the plan I spent years building. That anxiety fed into another problem, switching from saving to spending. I've always prided myself on being a great saver. Putting away 20% of my income was second nature. It was in my DNA. But now, watching my account balance dip every month, even for routine things like bills, dinners with Sarah, or plane tickets to visit my kids, makes my chest tighten. One evening, we went to our favorite Italian restaurant, and when the $120 bill came, I thought, should I cut back on these nights out? Am I spending too much? I had to remind myself, John, this is why you saved. To enjoy life. But it's not a comfortable feeling. I was used to controlling everything, every dollar in, every dollar out. Now I'm learning to let go, to trust that my plan will hold. I revisited my financial plan, checked my cash flow, and set up a flexible budget. like allocating $200 a month for fun stuff like dining or short trips without guilt. But it's a slow shift and it's stressful sometimes. I'd lie in bed staring at the ceiling wondering, am I spending too much? Will I have enough to make it to 90? Without my plan and advisor, I don't know how I'd cope. Retirement, I've learned, isn't just about money, it's about rewiring your brain from hoarding to living. Unexpected expenses made those financial worries even heavier. Even with a solid emergency fund, life threw punches I didn't see coming. Last winter, our furnace broke during a -10 degrees Fahrenheit Chicago cold snap. $3,000 to fix. Then our dog Max got arthritis and vet bills hit $2,000 in 2 months. Just last month, our roof sprang a leak after a storm, costing $1,500 to patch up. These didn't break the bank, but they made me realize you can't plan for every unknown. Every time I dipped into the emergency fund, it felt like peeling away a layer of security. I started questioning, what if these keep coming? Will my fund run dry before I know it? To cope, I tweaked my budget, cutting small things, like dropping dining out from twice a week to once or canceling a streaming service I barely used. But it hit me, retirement requires flexibility and that flexibility comes with stress. I used to think my emergency fund was an unbreakable shield, but now I see it's more fragile than I thought. I've started listing potential expenses, like car repairs or home maintenance, to prepare better, but the uncertainty still keeps me up at night. Another issue that's kept me on edge is the two biggest threats to retirees: sequence of returns risk and inflation. As a finance guy, I know that if the stock market crashes in the first few years of retirement, your portfolio can take a hit that's hard to recover from, especially if you're withdrawing money regularly. For example, if the market drops 20% in year one and I pull out $50,000, I'm not just losing value, I'm shrinking my portfolio's ability to bounce back. Thankfully, the market's been decent this past year, with the S&P 500 up about 10%. But I'm always on guard. I check my portfolio monthly, making sure it's diversified, 60% stocks, 30% bonds, 10% cash. And I keep a cash reserve for 3 years of expenses so I don't have to sell during a downturn. I've also shifted a small chunk to lower-risk ETFs, even though it means less potential growth. Inflation's another worry. It's at 3% now, but if it jumps to 5 to 6% like a few years ago, I'd have to cut spending, maybe 10%. That could mean postponing the Europe trip I'm planning with Sarah or picking cheaper hotels. I can't control these things, but I have to stay vigilant, reading financial news, ready to adjust. Maybe cut travel, sell assets, or even take a part-time gig if things get tight. This uncertainty stresses me out more than I expected. I thought retirement meant freedom, but it's turned out to mean constant vigilance. A retired friend told me, "John, retirement isn't a finish line. It's a new job, managing yourself." He's right, and it's exhausting sometimes. Time management has been another huge challenge, maybe the biggest. When I was working, I had maybe 2 to 3 hours of free time a day plus weekends. Now, I've got 168 hours a week to fill. Sounds amazing, but it's both a blessing and a curse. Sarah jokes that she married me for better or worse, not for 24/7. I enjoy my own company, reading, tending the garden, or just sipping coffee. But some days I stare at the clock and think, what now? I feel lost, like I'm wasting precious time. I tried creating a routine: 30-minute morning walks, guitar practice in the afternoon, family dinners at night. But sometimes that structure feels like a trap, like I'm turning retirement into another job. There are weeks when I wake up with no plans, no trips, no projects, just an empty day. At first, that emptiness made me anxious. I was used to a packed schedule, always something to do. Now the void feels overwhelming. I'd ask myself, am I living right? Am I missing a chance to do something big? I started experimenting, joining a hiking club, learning guitar, signing up for an online photography course. But some days I just want to binge Netflix and I feel guilty for it. I'm learning to embrace slow time, days with no goals, just peace. But getting there means wrestling with the pressure to produce something as if I still need to prove my worth. It's a battle I didn't expect. Finding a new sense of purpose has been another struggle. At work, my purpose was clear: provide for my family, grow my career, help clients meet their goals. Now I have to define purpose from scratch. I'm learning guitar badly and hiking with a local club which has introduced me to new friends. I'm dabbling in photography, exploring AI agents, tools that automate tasks, and even writing a small memoir about my career. These keep me busy, but sometimes I wonder, what's the point? What am I building? I thought retirement meant doing what you love, but it turns out you need to figure out what you love first. Some days I feel adrift, like I'm searching for something I'm not sure exists. I talked to a retired buddy and he said, "John, retirement isn't about finding a grand purpose. Sometimes it's just about living well each day." That stuck with me, but I'm still grappling with what living well means for me. It's a question I didn't expect to face so deeply. Health, both physical and mental, has been a bigger deal than I anticipated. I always thought I was healthy, no smoking, decent diet, occasional jogs. But retirement showed me health isn't just about not being sick, it's about thriving. I've gotten serious about exercise, 30-minute daily walks, twice weekly gentle yoga, and sessions with a trainer to build muscle strength. I've changed my diet. Breakfast is now eggs, Greek yogurt, and berries, not toast and coffee. I drink a warm lemon ginger honey water every morning, a small habit that's kept me flu-free all year. These changes have kept my medical costs at zero, but they take discipline. Some days I'd rather veg out on the couch, but I know slacking now means trouble later. Mental health, though, is the real challenge. On days when I'm stressed about money or feeling purposeless, my mind takes a hit. I started meditating for 5 minutes each morning, just breathing and focusing. I also tried journaling to process feelings like anxiety or emptiness. One day I told Sarah, "I don't know what's wrong, but some days I just feel hollow." She suggested talking to a therapist, and though I hesitated at first, I've done a few sessions. It's not a cure-all, but it's helped me see that retirement can unearth emotions I buried during my working years. Mental health, I've learned, is as critical as physical health, but it's harder to tackle. Despite the struggles, retirement has brought unexpected joys that light up the tough days. One is rediscovering myself. At work, I was John, the finance guy. Now I'm trying new things: guitar, still terrible, hiking with a club, learning photography. These make me feel young again. I've also grown closer to my family. I have distraction-free dinners with Sarah, spent a week in California with my youngest daughter playing board games, and organized a family reunion with my 80-year-old mom and siblings, something I never had time for before. Recently, I visited my Aunt Ruth in Ohio before she passed, spending 2 weeks listening to her stories. Those moments are gold, and I didn't expect retirement to deepen my family ties so much. I'm also learning to savor slow time. Days with no plans, just sipping coffee, listening to birds, or chatting with Sarah about little things. At first, I felt restless, like I was wasting time. But now, I see these moments as the heart of retirement, the peace I worked my whole life for. A year into retirement, it's not what I thought. It's messy, challenging, sometimes scary, but also profound and meaningful. I'm learning to love it, one day at a time, even on the days I'm anxious or lost. If you're nearing retirement or in the thick of it, I hope my story helps you feel prepared, or at least less alone. Retirement isn't a destination. It's a journey, and I'm still finding my way. Want more real stories, tips for staying healthy, saving money, and finding joy in retirement? Subscribe to Stories for Retired today. Hit that subscribe button and the bell at Stories for Retired. What surprised you about retirement, or what are you curious about? Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.